Want to listen to this episode ad-free? Head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room, and get a free trial for the ITBR professor level. And you can actually watch this episode as a video episode as well. While you're at it, did you know that on Spotify, we now have a subscription service for $10 a month? You get access to all of our ad-free episodes plus any bonus episodes. So make sure that you rate, review, and follow the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Ivory Tower Boiler Room. And follow Mary DePippi's show, True Crime in Academia, at True Crime in Academia. Thank you all for your support, and without further ado, here's today's episode.
Hey, true crime friends, welcome back to another episode of True Crime in Academia. As always, I am your host, Mary DePippi. I hope you all had a wonderful week this week and are enjoying your weekend. Health update. So I had to go back to urgent care on Thursday. So now we're doing another round of antibiotics and steroids together this time, not separately. So we will see how this goes. Because, it's possible that I was getting better and got sick at some point either while I was in California or when I got home from California. So, I'm just really hopeful that this last round of antibiotics and steroids just cures it all up. I have an appointment with an allergist/immunologist in September, so hopefully trying to get some more answers from that side of things. A lot of people have been like, oh, why don't you go see an ENT? Well, I have. I saw one when I got my tonsils and my adenoids out when I was a teenager, and then I went and saw them again recently. They were affiliated with an allergy as well, so basically, I wasn't too thrilled with them. So that's why I'm trying the allergy immunology way, specifically more for the immunology part of it, just because obviously mucus production, sorry to be gross and TMI, but that is obviously an immune response. So hopefully they can give me some answers and, maybe my allergy test will come out right this time. I don't know. I'm partially convinced that my test didn't come out correct the last time. So, fingers crossed. Hopefully it gets all figured out. And hopefully after all of that medication, I'll be better. Because I can't stand this. Anyway, we've got a great episode for you. We're getting into part 2 of the Reena Virk murder. And for the news update, I decided to do something a little different, and I might continue to do this from now on. So we're just going to scroll through Instagram and look at some news updates. So for this first one, obviously everyone's been talking about Justin Timberlake got arrested for a DWI, driving while intoxicated. This happened on June 18th. After a night out at friends at the American Hotel in Sag Harbor. A couple of sources said that the arresting officer was too young to know who Justin Timberlake was. And if you've seen the memes going around, apparently there was a whole this whole exchange of where Justin's like, oh my God, this is going to ruin the tour. And the officer's like, what tour? And he's like, the world tour, just freaking out and everything. Now I've seen that it says that he insists that he only had one drink. However, it seems like he went through a stop sign and couldn't stay to the right or in the right lane. But anyway, he was eventually released. And I believe his court date is scheduled for July. So we will see. We will see if this affects the world tour or not, but I just also find it hilarious that this cop had no idea who he was. I think, I can't imagine, like, me personally, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but, like, I don't care how big you are. Like, there are people in this world who don't know who Kim Kardashian is, okay? It might take you a while to find them, but you will find them. So, in times like these, it's just, to me, it's just funny that this guy had no idea who he was, and he's just like, what the fuck? But, gotta humble yourself, Justin. All right, so this next one is a little more serious. On Wednesday, the 19th, CNN reported that Boeing, the airplane company, committed the deadliest corporate crime in U.S. history and should be fined $24 billion to victims' families. Now, families that were lost were in 2 of the Boeing 737 MAX crashes. Let me see. When did these occur? The first was in Indonesia in October of 2018, and then in Ethiopia in March 2019. Combined, I believe that had killed 346 people total. In May, the Department of Justice notified Boeing that it had breached terms of its 2021 agreement following a January incident in which a door plug blew off an Alaskan Airlines flight shortly after takeoff. The Justice Department said it has not yet determined how it will proceed, and Boeing had the opportunity to respond to its breach of agreement, yada, yada, yada. But they have to do that by last week. The DOJ said that it will let the court know by July 7th how it will proceed. So, yeah, it looks like with all of the, I guess, damages culminated all together, Boeing should be owing these victims' families $24 billion. So hopefully that happens. Hopefully the Department of Justice makes an example out of them. I mean, you're not to put, like, this is why people are scared of airplanes, yet it's supposedly a lot safer, or is safer, than driving a car. Yet more people are more willing to get behind the wheel of a car and drive than get on an airplane. And it's for reasons like this. So, yeah, I really hope that Boeing takes responsibility and takes better care of the aircrafts they create and maintain. So, just horrible. My heart goes out to all of those families, victims. It's so terrible. And I had just started watching The Boys, and I forget what episode number it is, but Homelander and Maeve go on an airplane to rescue it from being hijacked. And Homelander fucks it up, and they wind up just leaving these people. I mean, you could tell Maeve doesn't want to, but Homelander's a fucking prick. So I'm very early on in the season, but anyway, yeah. Again, back to that tragedy. Those tragedies. I hope, hopefully something gets done with that, and those families get some sort of justice. Lastly, sadly, a Pennsylvania couple drowned after being pulled into a riptide while being on vacation with their teenage children. Parents 51-year-old Brian Warder and 48-year-old Erica Wishard were swimming on Hutchinson Island Thursday afternoon when the couple and 2 of their teenage children were swept out to the sea by a rip current. Thankfully, the teenagers were able to escape, and they tried to rescue their parents, but it became too dangerous, and they were forced to swim ashore, sadly. First responders found the couple and gave them CPR on the shore, but sadly they were declared dead at the hospital later. And I mean, it is just one of those horrific things that, like, you just don't know. And I mean, there's just really no way to prepare for it. I mean, it is so horrible. My heart goes out to those kids. I think it said they had 6 kids total, so it was just 2 of them that were there at the time. Ugh, and my heart hurts for them. I can't imagine how. Oh my God. Like, if it were me, I know that would weigh on me, even though there is no reason at all that would ever have been like for them to be forced to turn around and go to shore and like feel guilty of not being able to save them. Like, I hope they do not feel that way, because that is just an impossible situation. And I'm sure their parents, would have wanted them to save themselves. Again, it's not, I hate saying that because obviously that doesn't make anything better. Like, but ugh, my heart just hurts for them so much. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, we will get into the last part 2 of the murder of Reena Virk.
Sorry for the interruption, but this is Dr. Andrew Rimby, and I have to talk to you all about the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Yes, you might be saying, but wait, aren't I listening to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room? You are. You're listening to the podcast. But when I'm not here in the podcast space, I'm actually consulting. So I have small businesses that I help consult with their social media marketing plan. I help fellow podcasters or those who are looking to go into podcasting. And I've also just met with a client, and I can't wait for her podcast to come out. So I've also helped those in the college admission process with their essay editing. I helped someone on her thesis and actually edited and helped consult her all the way through her thesis. I'll help you with your dissertation, since I just got done my dissertation last summer. So you can reach out to me at ivorytowerboilerroom@gmail.com. Yes, I monitor my email every day. My first hour consultation is done virtually usually, and it's $30 for the first hour, and then we'll figure out what plan will work for you. So again, you can reach out to me via email, or you can also look me up on Google, Ivory Tower Boiler Room. You'll see my cell phone number there. Please do feel free to call me or DM me on Ivory Tower Boiler Room's Instagram. You've heard me gush over my friend Christian Garcia's podcast called That Old Gay Classic Cinema. Yes, Christian Garcia, who hosts the Smash Rewatch podcast series with me. Remember Smash, where they're putting on a Marilyn Monroe Broadway musical called Bombshell? Well, make sure you listen to our podcast series. His podcast is called That Old Gay Classic Cinema, and it is definitely meant for all of those Turner Classic movie lovers. So he looks at classic films with a queer lens. So think of him as a queer cinema professor of sorts. He actually had on co-owner of the Soapbox NY, Janine Cucci, to talk about Sunset Boulevard, which the three of us are just obsessed with Sunset Boulevard, and we can't wait for Nicole Scherzinger to be in the revival of Sunset Boulevard on Broadway. He also has episodes about Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Strangers on a Train. Now that definitely is a queer homoerotic film. The Philadelphia Story, Meet Me in St. Louis, Beauty and the Beast, Sweet Charity, Psycho, Mary Poppins, Hello Dolly, The Wizard of Oz, Vertigo, which I actually was on, and 101 Dalmatians, and the list can go on and on and on. So make sure that you listen to That Old Gay Classic Cinema wherever you get podcasts, like Spotify or Apple. Follow Christian on Instagram at That Old Gay Classic Cinema, and he also has a TikTok. And please make sure that you reach out to him and let him know that you heard this ad on the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Happy podcast listening. Spring has sprung here on Long Island, and I'm excited to talk about the Soapbox NY, a bath and body boutique located in historic Port Jefferson Village. My good friend Janine Cucci co-owns the Soapbox NY. Not only has she been on the Ivory Tower Boiler Room podcast, but she's also been on my good friend Christian Garcia's podcast. So she gave me a special spring scent from her blending bar. You might ask, Andrew, what is the blending bar? Well, it's what makes the Soapbox NY so unique, in my opinion. They have over 200 essential oils that can be made into shower gel, bubble baths, shampoo, body lotion, an essential oil roller, or even perfume. So, the first scent that I want to highlight is called Peony Blush Suede, an exquisite floral with delicate rose and honey accents and a subtle green freshness. The second is Mimosa and Tonka with notes of sweet golden mimosa mixed with creamy Tonka bean. And the third is Spring Musk, green and fresh with notes of bergamot, orange blossom, and neroli, a clean and fresh musk. So head over to soapboxny.com to place your order. Make sure you follow the Soapbox NY on Instagram, where you also could DM Janine with any questions. And make sure you tell her that Andrew from Ivory Tower Boiler Room sent you.
It would be 8 long, grueling days before the Virks would get any answers as to what happened to their 14-year-old daughter, Reena. Police divers discovered and retrieved her body on November 22nd, 1997. A few days later, Dr. Laurel Gray conducted Reena's autopsy. Now, her findings are gruesome, so if you need to skip, now is the time to do so. I will give you a little heads up when it's okay to come back. Dr. Gray noted that Reena sustained multiple blows to the abdominal area and had, quote, a crush convulsion injury as often seen in car crash victims, end quote. They beat her so bad that she sustained car crash inducing injuries. I mean, and again, I mean, this was an 8-on-1 situation, but even still, I mean, she also stated that Reena had, quote, extensive bruising under the skin of her face. A bruise in the shape of a sneaker print is on the back of the brain, end quote. Dr. Gray also recovered 18 pebbles from Reena's lungs. This led her to conclude that Reena had still been alive while she was being held underwater. Now, if you had skipped ahead to not hear the gory details, they're over now. You can come back. Dr. Gray concluded that Reena's death was caused by drowning and the manner of death, homicide. Now, what I like about Under the Bridge is that it demonstrates how difficult and frustrating investigating a case like this is and how difficult it was because of the age of the suspects, right? The teenage years are just so strange and hard to navigate on their own. And then you throw in the fact that these specific teenagers had an idolization of violence and gangs. You throw that into the mix, and unfortunately, you can piece together how situations, sadly, like this, and in Reena's case, how it went too far. And that's just putting it simply. The police went on to arrest 8 teenagers total. 6 of the teens, including Josephine Bell / Nicole Cook. Yeah, I'm saying it now. That is her first name. Or that is her real name. I don't care. You know, it's been a while. Also, and I'd seen it in other articles now that I was looking through some of these a little bit more further. So, we're using her name. Josephine Bell is Nicole Cook. Okay? Anyway, she and the other 5 were charged and convicted with aggravated assault for the attack of Reena under the bridge. On February 9th, 1998, 3 of the 6 girls pled guilty. And on February 13th, 1998, the other 3 girls were convicted by a court and by a jury, I believe, for most of them, of the assault charges. Their sentences ranged from a 60-day conditional sentence, which is like a parole type of situation, to 1 year in jail. 2 other teenagers were also arrested, but unlike the others, they were charged with second-degree murder of Reena Virk. And the courts decided they would be trying them as adults. 15-year-old Kelly Ellard and 16-year-old Warren Gulatsky.
Are you looking for a new magazine to read where you can get so many book, film, and TV recommendations? Well, then you need to check out the Gay and Lesbian Review. The G&LR is a bi-monthly magazine of history, culture, and politics that publishes essays in a wide range of disciplines, as well as a slew of reviews of books, plays, and movies, and a number of special features. Each issue brings you consistently intelligent, lively, thought-provoking articles focused on a unifying theme. So, for example, their new issue for May and June is called The Celluloid Fishbowl. And it's a nod to Vito Russo's 1981 book called The Celluloid Closet, which documented the flashes of LGBT content in movies before Stonewall when such content was strictly forbidden. So there's so many exciting articles in the May and June issue, including one by Andrew White called Queer Ghosts on Oscar Night that covers so many different LGBTQ films, both when the characters come out of the closet and what happens when characters are already openly queer and they don't need to come out of the closet, like we're seeing with so much of TV and film and literature right now. There's also an article by Andrew Holleran, the acclaimed writer of Dancer from the Dance, who actually reviews All of Us Strangers, which I can't wait to watch and has been much talked about. So please make sure that you use the Ivory Tower Boiler Room code ITBR50 when you go on glreview.org. You'll see on the right side it says subscribe. You can either subscribe for their digital edition, or if you're like me, I like to still get the magazine delivered as a print magazine. There's nothing just like having a print magazine in front of you. So use ITBR50 to get 50% off of your G&LR subscription. Yes, that's 50% off. So enjoy your reading. And please, if you are subscribing to the Gay and Lesbian Review, and if there's an article you really enjoyed, or a review you really liked, or a guest that you really want me to interview from the Gay and Lesbian Review, make sure that you DM me at Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Happy reading, everyone. And thank you to the Gay and Lesbian Review for their sponsorship. I really wanted to introduce you all to one of our sponsors, Broadview Press, who's been here since the beginning of the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Broadview Press is an independent academic publisher who specializes in your humanities-related books. You can use the code Ivory Tower for 20% off on broadviewpress.com. So Sid's new book with Broadview Press is called AI in Writing. And as I'm on Broadview Press's website, I see that it's actually so popular that it's out of stock. But don't worry, it's going to be back in stock on June 21st. So make sure you get your orders in right now and get 20% off. So if you have questions about generative artificial intelligence, how to use it as a writing tool, whether you're an educator or you're a creative writer, he addresses all of the ethical, social, and material questions you have about using AI for writing purposes. And there's actually a free 37-page PDF on the AI in Writing page on Broadview Press that talks all about the topic of AI in higher education. I highly recommend it. And while I'm recommending his book, I'd also love to recommend a new book published in April in 2024 called Academic Writing Now, a brief guide for busy students, written by David Starkey. And it is a reader and rhetoric combo. It's available as an ebook for under $30, and it includes readings on contemporary issues students care about, like AI, climate change, and campus life. I can't wait for you all to enjoy your Broadview Press books. And if you're a classic novel reader like myself, Dracula, Jane Eyre, you name it, Broadview Press has you covered with classic novels as well. Remember, 20% off, use the code Ivory Tower, broadviewpress.com. You've all heard me gush about Mandy Made It. Mandy Made It is a craft business, and it's actually owned by my friend Mandy Bengal, who I have known, Mary DePippi has known. We all actually became best friends in Main Stage Center for the Arts summer theater camp. So I'm so proud of Mandy. First, she has an arts festival coming up on April 28th. It's called the Gloucester Township Arts Market and Green Fair. There are going to be art vendors, craft vendors, including Mandy, food trucks. It sounds so much fun. I actually am thinking maybe I'm going to attend. So it's in South Jersey and it's April 28th, a Sunday from 10 to 3 p.m. So go over to at Mandy Made It to find out more information about how you can attend the festival. And please, if you see Mandy, say, oh, I listened to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room, and that's how I know about your crochet company. So she makes so many wonderful items, especially because we're in the spring into summer. I know that she makes beautiful spring flowers that she crochets. She's made wonderful Pokemon inspired items. I know that my boyfriend, he's loves Pokemon Go, so this is a great item for him. I actually got my boyfriend a Mandy Made It Scream ghost face bouquet for Valentine's Day. He loved it. She makes wonderful Disney inspired items. She made me a Hocus Pocus bed and breakfast item, Snow White and the Evil Queen's poisoned apple item. I know she's made Married to Pippi so many true crime items. We're in talks right now to have her make some Ivory Tower Boiler Room crochet items. Make sure that you reach out to Mandy Made It. Let her know that you heard this ad on the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. She loves knowing that you're listening to her ad on the podcast. And also, she'll give you an exclusive item at Mandy Made It on Instagram and Facebook.
In the spring of 1999, Warren Golotsky was given a swift trial, but one without a jury. Judge Malcolm McCauley sentenced Golotsky to life in prison without the chance of parole for 7 years. Now, Golotsky admitted to the violence he inflicted on Reena and assisted Kelly in dragging her body to the water's edge. But ultimately, he does not admit to having killed her. He states that Kelly was the one who held her head under the water that, ultimately drowned her. However, though, he also didn't do anything to prevent it and also further injured her. So, yeah. It was said, however, that he had been interrogated for hours without a lawyer or a parent present. Now, his parents, sadly, were not in the picture really growing up. His mother was an alcoholic, and I don't think he ever really knew his father. But even if there wasn't a parent present, he still should have been given the option to have a lawyer present for this. So, I mean, it's acceptable, and sadly, if that was taken into consideration, the information he provided probably would have been null and void. And I'm not saying at all that he shouldn't have been given life, without the without the possibility of parole for 7 years. Because obviously he did commit a crime. It's just, if that had been taken into consideration, I think it's possible that he could have gotten away with this scot-free, almost in a sense. But again, I mean, he did deserve to be punished for what he did. But in comparison to how his case was held versus the seemingly innocent white girl from a good family who also got her a good lawyer, Kelly Ellard, it's just not okay, and that's just the fact of the matter of it all. Golotsky was released on parole on June 23rd, 2010, the year I graduated high school. Not to date myself or anything. But it is also said that he was very remorseful for his role in Reena's murder. And I think today he's just living a normal, low-key life. I do know that he did privately meet with Reena's parents and apologized to them, to which her parents not only accepted his apology, but then supported his request for full parole. Reena's mother, Suman, stated to the press that, quote, of all the accused in this whole process, He is the only one who has taken responsibility for his actions, end quote. Now, Kelly Ellard, on the other hand, would spend the next 10 years in and out of court for this case. 3 trials in all. The first, obviously, was right after her arrest, and she was convicted by a jury in March of 2000, where she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 5 years. Now, in February of 2003, the BC Court of Appeals announced a new trial to be ordered due to, quote, improprieties in the way Ellard was questioned during her first trial, end quote. Again, just to point out, like, this did not matter in Warren Golotsky's hearing. But, just pointing, again, just another difference of how this is being handled. Now, the new trial began in June of 2004, and it was declared a mistrial due to the jury being deadlocked 11-1. I fucking hate when trials end this way. Because it's just like, oh my God, if that one person could just get on board. But then again, that is why technically our justice system is quote unquote fair. However, I don't understand why you just drop a trial like that in some cases. But thankfully this one was not, because a new trial was scheduled for early of 2005. That April, Ellard was found guilty again for the second-degree murder of Reena Virk and was then sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for 7 years. The following summer, Ellard filed an appeal and asked for another trial or just an acquittal. But thankfully, in June of 2009, the Supreme Court of Canada just reinstated her conviction, thus ending any opportunities for her to appeal or for a retrial. So they're like, nope, you did what you did. We're stand with your punishment. We're done here. Now, Ellard would go on to have some issues with parole. Now, the Canada justice systems allows for, integration back into society with certain terms like having day parole or overnight leaves. Now, while this is all while a prisoner's main residence is ultimately in jail, it's kind of, like I said, it's more of to help them reintegrate. So, I think in day parole, in some instances, prisoners can get a job, and they can go to work and again integrate back into society. Now, she was granted day parole in 2017, but it was suspended for a short time, from my understanding. It was reinstated, or not reinstated, but it was unsuspended back in October of 2018. And in August 2019, she was granted overnight leaves and extended day parole while she finishes out her life sentence. So, I really hope for the most part that she has changed. I mean, obviously, a lot of growth can happen from 15 to now in her 40s, but you never know. I mean, sometimes certain traumas, certain things stick with you. I haven't heard anything or seen anything that said she has any remorse for this. So, yeah, I don't know. But hopefully, I guess she has changed. We'll see. But, at least she's going to be in prison, hopefully, for the rest of her life. So that is all I have for you, my dearies. That is the end. That is the final episode for our 2-part series. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this, definitely check out Hulu's Under the Bridge with Riley Kehoe as Rebecca Godfrey, the author of Under the Bridge, which is the true story, or her written story, of this case of Reena's murder. So it's very excellent. Riley Kehoe and Lily Gladstone are absolutely amazing in it. I can't recommend it enough. So go watch that. Also, don't forget to follow True Crime in Academia on social media at True Crime in Academia on Threads, Instagram, and TikTok, and at TC in Academia on X, formerly known as Twitter. And until next time, my darlings, I will see you all later.